Chapter 4. The 10th of July 2009. 4 p.m. Jhalda Police Station, West Bengal. The building had been recently painted bright white, with the pillars covered in lapis blue shade. The shine from the fresh paint was a welcoming sight for Ryan but scorched Savitoj's tired eyes. On their arrival at the police station, many fresh souls stood alert at the main door. Chiranjeev did not follow Savitoj and Ryan to the police station but rather marched the opposite way for lunch. His morning was filled with non-stop traveling to escort Savitoj and Ryan to the hotel and then back to the station. During the free period, he had dealt with some personal work, making sure not to alter the CBI office's schedule. Now, it was time to calm his growling stomach. The fisherman, who had first seen the body, and his fellow companions were sitting on a bench. They had been called 2 hours earlier to make sure that there was no delay caused in the office's schedule. Their statements had already been taken, but none were signed. The sight of so many officers made them nothing but anxious and left them panic-stricken. Savitoj headed towards the tiny table arranged for them to carry out their work. Ryan followed. The police force working at the station was seemingly amused at the CBI officer's presence. Many of them had never seen such high-ranking investigators before and had been hoping that working with the officers would surely get them some limelight. Savitoj gestured at a Havaldar to bring in Suman Deb. The fisherman was already shivering at the sight of being called alone. As soon as the shaking body entered the room, it fell near Savitoj's chair. Savitoj quickly signaled the Havaldar to help Suman to his feet. This behavior hardly surprised Savitoj. He had seen many innocent people plead to avoid the police investigation. Sometimes, they would even lie and act like puppets under police's instructions in the fear of being investigated themselves. Savitoj had no intention of concluding the case without a fair investigation. He wanted a just outcome. Suman sat on a chair, still sobbing his heart out. The Havaldar stood beside Ryan and helped Savitoj by translating his questions. "Tell him to calm down," Savitoj said to the Havaldar. He translated the same, but Suman's weeping hardly reduced. Telling the crying person not to cry was as bland as asking a poor person to stop being poor. It wasn't helpful at all. With no hope of stopping the tears, Savitoj gave up. He started interrogating as calmly and as plainly as he could. The general rules were followed. "What is your name?" Savitoj inquired. The Havaldar translated. He was the only one in the station fluent in both Hindi and Bengali. Suman replied in a crackling voice. Savitoj needed no translation. "When did you find the body?" The Havaldar translated, and Suman replied. There was nothing new in the answers, just what was written on the paper. "Why have you not signed this statement yet?" Though this question was of minor concern to Savitoj, it definitely needed to be answered. Suman said something gibberish, but the Havaldar was able to predict.
"He is not literate, sir."
He paused for a second as Ryan was about to instruct something.
"And he won't let us use his thumbprints on the paper either." "Why?"
Ryan inquired. The Havaldar translated. Suman gave a 5-minute lengthy explanation relating to his great-grandfather and grandfather. The Havaldar did not translate word by word but rather summarized the important statements.
"Sir, during the British rule, some officers had made his great-grandfather put a thumb on land papers. As a result, his family lost all their lands. The first lesson they are taught in the family is not to put a thumb on anything unless verified by someone from the neighborhood or a close relative of theirs."
The Havaldar's reply made Ryan chuckle. "Can any of your educated relatives come here to look upon your statements?" The Havaldar translated. Suman gave it a thought and then nodded. "When?" There was no reply from Suman. He started sobbing again. Savitoj grew tired of this, and mild anger excited his body in the form of a bead of sweat. "Have you killed the soldier?" Savitoj asked with anger-flushed face. The Havaldar stared momentarily at Savitoj before proceeding to ask Suman the same. Savitoj nodded sternly to ask it without any hesitation. The moment Havaldar translated the question, Suman started trembling vigorously. The slender body quickly drenched in a heavy sweat, and there were no words he could utter. Savitoj did not expect an answer. "Take him away and tell him to sign these documents in 1 week's time. If not done, he will be the first one on my list of suspects." The Havaldar nodded and proceeded to take Suman out of the room. On the way to exit, Suman tightly held onto the Havaldar and looked at Savitoj over his shoulder. "And he can't leave the village prior to our approval," Savitoj said, raising his voice.
"There is nothing for me without this village,"
Suman replied solemnly.
"Why so harsh on him?"
Ryan asked after Suman had left. "Sometimes you have to bully the most innocent for them to give up the most mischievous," Savitoj replied. "If he does not sign these statements, we have hardly any legal proof about the first witness at the crime scene." Ryan had to comply with Savitoj's methods. After checking his wallet, Savitoj ordered Ryan to take the important documents. Ryan obeyed his senior. He took the files and stepped out of the police station. Suman sat on the floor outside the main hall, with his head dug deep in his curled body. 24 fishermen were sitting surrounding him, which made quite an attraction for the people passing by. Ryan paused for a moment to comprehend the situation, but quickly put his legs in motion when he saw Savitoj exiting the station alongside him. On seeing Savitoj and Ryan approaching the car, Chiranjeet came running towards them. "Sorry, sir, if I am late," he said. "No, you are not. Take us to the hotel and take some rest. I need some time to go through these papers. At night, we would like to see the spot where the body was found." "Sir, the railway station?" Chiranjeet had a lump in his throat. "Yes, the railway station.